Okay, so we were just talking about the phenomenon, right, about health righteousness. And it's like we were in this country and in other first world countries that there's been this kind of obsessive push, and it is a business, right? You see that now that this is pushed by businesses, pushed by people selling products, selling supplements, selling a book, selling whatever they believe health is, right?
Right.
And we were kind of showing the parallels to radical religion, right? That should you have to obsess and work in terms of religion, should you, in order for your God's love, should you have to pray, read scriptures every day, basically devote your life to a religious ideology, dress the way they're supposed to dress, again, reading the scriptures every day, studying, devoting your money to the church and all these things just for God's love. Like, there's a degree of radicalism in that.
And and anything that important, you shouldn't have to work that hard at.
Right. You shouldn't necessarily have to be an indentured servant.
Right.
Right. And it's extremely emotional. So when you look at what you were doing just to be healthy, just to not have diabetes, right? Just to be like, should you have to do all of that work to not be diabetic? So list the things that you were doing. You had said, oh, I have these ketone strips, the HCG protocol. What else have you done and read and studied and focused on just to be not diabetic?
Grain brain, the eat clean diet.
Okay, say it again.
Eat clean diet.
Before that was grain brain, right?
Yep. All the Dr. Oz, like, you on a diet, and the Forever Young diet, the hormone cure, fulfilled life, young life. Pretty much you name it, I've done it.
In terms of exercise, right? Didn't you exercise as well?
Yeah, I decided that I should start running, so I ran a 5K, and then that wasn't enough. I decided I should train for a half marathon, which my body went to crap, and I didn't do that. But just always managing the health of my body and what I put in my mouth, and then feeling bad about what I ate.
Right. You were saying that the most influential for you was eating clean, right?
Yes. Yeah.
How did that end up? I mean, the concept of clean eating is that you're just, I want you to explain it. And I know the listeners going, oh, I've done clean eating. I'm still trying to eat clean, right? And what are they not understanding when they devote themselves to this idea of purity?
Well, for me, eating clean was not eating carbs. In fact, I have a Pinterest board called Carbs Are Evil. And
look it up.
I need to get rid of. But it was eating all the fat I wanted, but no carbs. And
carbs are evil. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm still stuck on that.
Yeah, that's the name of the board.
Think of the righteousness. When we talked about the parallels to radical religious beliefs and religious zealotry, that's actually what you were doing with this concept of what health is. And the concept of the concept of health that you had, was it even your concept?
No.
Whose concept was it?
Anybody that I read about, whatever person or group or plan or organization I was following at the time, that was my religion. And
it always was presented to you in an intelligent way, right? Like grain brain,
right,
or wheat belly, or, whatever some detox is, right? And then you would believe it wholeheartedly and then devote yourself to it.
Oh, yeah. I could do all those things perfectly while I was doing it and preach it to people what I was doing and why I was doing it, and this is what you need to do, and you should eat this, and you shouldn't eat that. And now I see that, like I said, it took me a long time to be able to eat some foods and not see them as sinful or as bad.
Or dirty, right? You said...
dirty, yeah.
Like,
because clean, if you're eating clean, the opposite of that is to eat dirty.
Yeah, so your brain is trying to filter out dirty, bad food from clean food, right? Clean meaning safe and healthy. Safe is a better word, emotionally, when you think about it. Safe.
Right.
Safe food. Right?
Yeah.
So when you're out of it now, when you look at, we were talking about people capitalizing on this whole push to be healthy, as if it is something you need to do to be an honorable person, right? That if you're not focusing on being healthy, that there's some dishonor in that. What was the attitude of in general in these books and of the people that followed this type of system? What's the attitude they have towards people who are overweight or obese or who are eating gluten or grain?
But that there's something wrong with them. That they're not, they just need to try harder, and they just need to do it this way, and some of those diet plans or groups that I belong to, I see now that they wanted me to succeed because they wanted me to spend the money for their product.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't about me and about my health. It was about lining their pocket.
Yeah, and power too. I mean, do you see how they loved when people would do what they say?
Right.
There's a level of power that people get from that. And the fact that you're worshiping someone, you're worshiping this as if in devoting yourself to something that they believe you should do, which is probably something they're doing, right? Do you think that they were forthright in terms of the reality of their mental state in their selling of this?
No, not at all.
Right, in the before and after pictures, we kind of talked about that too, that they try to make this look like it's so easy, right? Like, I'm just so happy now, even though what they're doing takes an extreme amount of work to maintain. Yep. That's like, I'm so happy in this religion, even though this is all I think about, this is all I do, I have no freedom, I've isolated myself from social events, I can't travel anymore. Like, they're not, they're even promoting these weird behaviors when they're traveling to not even adapt into the culture. We're going to pack our food so we can control it. So I have to focus on how to pack and mobilize this controlled environment of food. Like, if you're really healthy, should you have to work that hard for it?
Right. And
because if you have to work that hard to be healthy or not diabetic, dude, you are crazy. Like, you're diabetic now. Right?
Exactly. And when I found those ketone strips this morning, I tensed up first of all, and like I told you before, the first word in my head was management. That to use those, it takes so much management.
Ketone strips.
Yeah.
And you have to be concerned. What if you're not, in that ketogenic? What if it doesn't come out right? What if you're not in ketosis? How did that make you feel?
Like a failure.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not doing something right. You're not succeeding. You're failing. That the whole goal is the ketone. I don't know. The whole thing's just crazy.
Well, now, but before you thought it was what you needed to do. I mean, this is what you have to do to be healthy. You need to check your ketones. You got to check your weight. You need to make sure your food is organized. You got to make sure that you go to your 2 hours of exercise. You got to make sure that you exhaust yourself during the exercise. Then you got to remove all the sugar. You got to remove all the grain. You got to remove all the gluten. And then you have to make sure that it's all pre-organized, calculated, understood. And then you got to do ketone strips again. And then you got to make sure that your body's healthy. And most people who do that, they don't realize that they're insanely inflamed in terms of fight or flight. Right? And that the human body wasn't meant to be, your whole brain wasn't meant to be devoted to making sure the body's healthy to this degree. Right? That's not what your brain actually gets. It's not healthy. And you're probably struggling with depression and obsessive compulsive issues. You probably have severe anxiety and panic in environments that you can't control. Like, you have a lot of symptoms that you're not talking about when you're promoting this ketone strip, gluten-free, grain-free issue, right?
Exactly.
That's what I'm talking about. It's like that type of behavior is a clear compensation for something, which is fear, right? Human fear. Fear of type 2 diabetes. Should any human person have to work that hard to not be diabetic?
Yeah, and when you step back from all that BS and look at it, like, I spent every day, all day, worried about what I was going to eat next, and if it was the right thing, and if it wasn't the right thing, I just wouldn't eat. And then I got too hungry, and then I'd end up binging, and I just, like, the management of that whole system.
Yeah, and the other thing is that you would hide and binge because you were trying to promote these kind of radical diets, these radical healthy ways of eating. It's a radical lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, this isn't a diet, it's a lifestyle. Well, it's kind of radical, you know? If it takes all of this work, just call it what it is. It's a diet. You're just promoting health. No, you're promoting insanity. Because you're messing with that primal psychological foundation of, do we have enough food? And if that isn't fixed and that isn't fulfilled, you're going to be inflamed on such a degree that there's no amount of sugar-free that can fix that. Right? Because you're dealing with fight or flight from a primal consciousness around, do I have enough food?
Yeah.
Which is crazy, right? Because that really turns on this weird behavior.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And people in it don't realize it. They're not bad people. It's not like they just don't understand that they are radicalized. And it's with their concept of health.
Right. Once you're able to step back and look at it from the outside, you see it for the craziness it is.
And we see how massive it is too. I mean, it's massive, it's massive enough that social scientists are observing the behavior. Right? That this concept of religiosity around food and health has become such a massive issue that it's actually supporting, there's such a huge link between the feasting behavior of our country and the fact that 50% of our culture is dieting at any given moment. 50% of America is dieting right now. But, oh no, it's a lifestyle. I'm just doing ketone strips because I need to make sure that I stay in ketosis so that I'm making sure I'm burning all this fat because I'm doing a ketogenic diet. It's really important so that I stay healthy. So I have to work this, right? Even though psychologically, it's clear you're not healthy. There's problems going on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting unhealthier by the minute in my healthy diet.
Yeah, and then the pressure to lose weight to do it as well, because how are you supposed to be healthy with your grain-free, your grain-brain concept if you're overweight, right? So now the pressure to lose weight is huge. And you were saying that if someone noticed I was losing weight, it almost made my issues with food worse, right? If someone mentioned, oh my God, you've lost so much weight, you'd be like, yeah, thank you. I'm so proud. I'm grain-brain. I'm doing keto sticks. I'm doing all this stuff. And you promote it. Meanwhile, you would immediately feel pressure, right? I can't regain the weight. They just saw I'm losing weight and I got to keep it up, which constricts your access to food even more psychologically.
Yep.
Right? And that, again, that inflames that area, that primal area of the brain that's linked to your concept of food and if it's abundant. So what happened to your feasting behavior or that private binge eating that you were doing once someone noticed you'd lost weight?
Oh, it increased because there's all this pressure and fear of regaining the weight.
Mm-hmm.
And something has to give.
Mm-hmm. So to where, in terms of where you're at today, How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I don't wake up thinking about food, and used to be I'd wake up, my first thought was, oh my gosh, what did I eat last night? What do I have to fix today? Do I have it in me to fix it today, or shall I just spend the day binging because tomorrow will be a new day and I can start then?
It might be easier then, yeah.
Yeah. I have too much on my plate today. I shouldn't do it today. I deserve to eat this. And now it's like my day does not revolve around what I am or am not going to eat, because the am not going to eat was more important than what I was going to eat, which led to what I was going to eat.
How does it feel to know you'll never have to do that again?
It's like this gigantic weight has been lifted off, and I'm just free to live, just free to be who I am and to enjoy the day. And if I want a cheeseburger, I'll have a cheeseburger.
Oh my God, that's so dirty. I mean, don't you know? Would you rather, I mean, in terms of health, would you rather have the concept of health that you had before or actual diabetes today? Which one would you rather have?
Diabetes.
Me too.
I cannot go back to the craziness in my head and the constant management of my day. It was exhausting.
What if people judge you for having diabetes? What if you go to the hospital and you feel, the doctor's like, you need to lose some weight, you need to get on a diet, you really need to get educated on?
That was probably the hardest part for me, was learning that it doesn't matter if people judge me. That's okay.
Yeah, that embarrassment, right? That embarrassment, like, yeah. No, but really, should you be embarrassed, or should the dieting concept that you were implementing be embarrassed?
Oh, definitely the dieting concept.
Yeah, because that's what was messed up. You're a human. You integrated with that. You internalized it. But the reality is that what happened to you is a reflection of the diet that you imposed on yourself. So the keto sticks, the grain-free, the gluten-free, the dairy-free, the happiness-free, the freedom of the lack of freedom in the mind that the obsession over reaching this degree of health that is all a mirage anyways, right?
Right. It was killing me.
Yeah, your obsession over fixing your leaky gut. Killing you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I was.
Wouldn't you rather have leaky gut?
Yeah.
Me too.
I would.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, and that's the thing that it gets to. And a lot of people are listening to this going, oh my God, she is promoting, poor health. But is that what I'm promoting?
No. Not at all. And since I don't obsess about food, and I'm not binging, and I'm not bloated, I'm just me. My body's just a body.
You're relaxed, and you're relaxed about food, and that has a huge impact in your overall health. That we at least in terms of how you feel.
Yeah. Yeah. The feeling is really indescribable. The difference when you step back and just let go of that mentality.
Yeah. Well, congrats. What do you have to say?
Thank you.
What do you need to say, or what would you like to say to the listener who is doing what you previously were doing, that's connecting to this and listening to you going, wow, okay, but how do you just quit? How do you not want to be healthy?
Say that again?
What do you want to say to the listener who's listening to you going, well, how do you just not want to be healthy? How do you quit?
Oh, yeah, I struggled with that. And I know it sounds just so simple, but you just have to let go. Let go of the limitations and the let go of the judgment. You just have to let go.
In order to let go, don't you agree, you have to accept being unhealthy? Because it's the concept of a health that you're seeking. So you have to let go of the concept of unhealth too, or you have to accept unhealth relative to that concept, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
You kind of have to compare the suffering and the obsessive compulsiveness and the anxiety and the depression and the paranoia and all that you have to do to be healthy. You have to compare that suffering to the fear and the pain of the unhealth that you're running away from. Which one is actually worse, right?
Right. And without a doubt, the fear was everything in my head was far worse than any physical ailment would be. And when I started working with you, I wanted so badly, like I really tried to talk you into that I needed to stay on a diet. I really wanted you to tell me it was okay. Michelle, you're the exception to the case. You need to just stay on a diet. And you didn't. And that was good.
Well, I mean, because that's what you've always been doing, and it just dug the grave, right?
Right.
Keep on digging, and to some degree, I'm like, maybe you should go on a diet. But then once I present that, people go, oh God, I don't know if I can do it. So it's like going back and forth between suffering and then the pain of your fear. Suffering. Eventually you got to go, well, I know what the suffering is and I can do this over and over again. I don't know how much longer I can live in that suffering. So why don't I try pain first? I mean, you get to that point where you're like, I'll just try. I mean, could it be as bad as what I'm having to do just to be healthy?
Right.
Like I'm suffering in my efforts to try to be healthy, and it's affecting me emotionally, psychologically, socially, spiritually. It's not good.
Yep.
Like it has gotten to the point where there's something wrong and you can feel it, but you don't want to stop what you're doing because there's this concept of safety you're chasing like a mirage. But I need the safety. So you're chasing it, but how long can you continue to chase something and when the chasing is so abusive?
Right.
Right. Do you see it now as it's totally abusive? That's abusive behavior.
Oh, yeah. Completely.
And it's self-inflicted based on the fact that someone's promoting you to do that. They want you to do that. You paid to do that. They're giving you this fantasy. They're the ones that are saying, look, there's a mirage here. You can chase it. Here, I'll show you a before and after picture of this person who has it, even though you and I now know that person is still chasing it because they have to do this permanently, which means it's not real.
Right.
Right? So you got to go the opposite direction. You got to go the direction you're running away from.
Yep.
To realize that you are cognitively distorting it. You are cognitively distorting the health part of it, making it, you are taking it and emotionalizing it as better than it actually is, because it doesn't include the craziness to do it. And then you're cognitively distorting unhealth as if it's worse than it really is.
Yep.
Right? Because now you can see that, right? Like the way they were talking and how they present the destruction of what grain does is nothing close to the actuality of it.
Right.
It's distorting. They're completely distorting this emotionally. So if you go into the reality of, well, if you're not afraid of it, it's not really, it's like, what are they talking about? Right? I could see if you were binging on these foods 5 times a day, right? That would create the issue. But why would you binge on those foods 5 times a day? Because you're going to eliminate those foods tomorrow.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and just all those different diets and stuff, they want you to feel bad about yourself as you are, so that you want to jump on their bandwagon where they can make you feel good about yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and to question your existing health. If you don't change this, you're going to end up dying of cancer too.
Yeah.
If you don't change this, you're going to get diabetes.
Yep.
If you don't change this, your hair is going to fall out like this person's. We'll show you a picture.
Yep.
And there's no history there. Like remember when I told you there's no history? Like, if you have leaky gut, have you ever thought that this person has a binge eating disorder because they've dieted so much because they're started out as anorexic? That's kind of an important detail.
Yeah.
That's not being discussed.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, where I am in my life now is a million times better than where I was before.
And you're not taking a pill. You're not on antidepressants. It's not like we, you know, this really had to do with accepting and going into what you were fearing and being afraid of. And that emotionally is not easy to do. But which one's harder? What you were doing or what we went through?
Oh, what I was doing was far harder. And when I stepped over, so to speak, and was able to look back, I was like, oh my gosh, that was so easy. Why was I so afraid?
Because you were afraid of how distorted, right? It's kind of like you're going to get type 2 diabetes. You're going to have all these issues. Those were fear-mongered into you, and they didn't happen. And even if they do happen at this point, wouldn't you rather that happen, right? It's like, it was almost going into dying, right? Like you said, once I stepped over, it was like, what? That was a mirage. That was totally in my head. It wasn't even real. And you're like, I would have stayed in that, running from this fake illusion that was presented to me in all these books that were so smart, right?
Yep.
By all these groups and all these followers and all these people who are in the same state of mind and they don't even know it. Right?
Yeah, and that's really scary.
Well, what's scary is the massive amount of people who are in it.
Yeah.
Right? It's an epidemic, right? Enough that the social scientists are now observing the behavior. So people like you and all of you, you are being observed by social scientists because it's a social phenomenon. That the concept of health is similar to the concept of being rich.
Yep.
For reals. Like, if you have this concept of health, that's similar to someone, when you see them who's rich, they have this allure or this symbolism of success and worth, that this idea of someone being healthy has the same kind of like halo glory, right? And so people are chasing this concept of health and the health righteousness, similar to chasing being rich, having money. And it's real. And there's enough psychological problems from it that's what people are researching. Is the fact that there's obsessive compulsiveness, depression, people are having real issues out there because it's affecting their life and affecting their relationships, affecting their families, affecting their social life. I mean, it's not everybody out there, but there's enough that it's creating like, oh, we need to study this. This is human behavior, like this is cool. And there's people and scientists observing all of it. It's amazing that the science is already out there. That it's not just brand new. It is starting. There's so much study of this health righteousness, the zealotry around food, that it's an actual radicalization around food and what the impact is on health to the point of unhealth. Right? And you are now out of it. And now you see it, and how big is it really?
Yeah.
How big is it?
It's huge. It's huge.
Which is worse? It's like the epidemic of obesity or the epidemic of this psychological issue around health righteousness?
The psychological.
Totally. And do you see the impact that has on people's feeding behavior, which creates the obesity?
Yeah, exactly.
No. I have never met a binge eater who wasn't super health righteous.
Really?
Yep, never.
Well, that makes sense. But
I know. But the crazy thing is people are stigmatizing them as if they were uneducated, No, every binge eater I've worked with really knows their shit. They probably have ketone sticks. They probably write grain brain. They probably write gluten, all this stuff, because it's what's going to save them, right? So they study this stuff obsessively. I've never met a binge eater who's like, I don't know anything about McDonald's. I just eat it. Right?
Yeah. I did the same thing. I ran across an article today that I had copied for all my family and friends about why carbs were so bad for you. And I threw it away. Yeah, I completely bought into it.
Yeah. Well, you know, carbs or stress, which one's harder on you?
The stress.
Of course. What about stress about carbs?
The stress.
Kind of a big deal, right? The stress about carbs is like on levels, right? Take stress alone. Like I told you, it's like I had my A1C levels. I got all that stuff tested after I had moved, and I was diabetic. The doctors and the nurses were like, oh my God, you need to come back in. It was abnormal. And I was like, I just moved. I moved twice across the country in 6 months. I'm going to wait. I didn't know that it was diabetic. I was diabetic when I moved from Minnesota to Alabama, from Alabama to Idaho. I went and got my blood test when I got back to Idaho. About 3 months after I moved around, and the numbers came back abnormal. They were freaking out. I never went in. I didn't have a replied. A year later, got my blood test back and was like, what happened? They were like, oh my God, your A1C levels are way off. Like, way off. You were diabetic. And I was like, oh, well, yeah. I was moving and stressed. Which at the time, you know, I'm not eating all that much. I'm moving. I'm working. My body's working. So it goes against everything you were taught. How is someone who is so lean, who is exercising because they're moving, and who is eating just enough, right, to manage I can't stop working, so I got to eat just enough, who becomes diabetic? That's a 3-month panel they took. So it's not like immediate. It's like 3 months later, I was diabetic. Me, right? So a year later, my numbers are fantastic, super healthy, off the charts, right? Just because of stress relief. And we're not talking like I got divorced and shit like that. No, just moved. I moved twice in a 6-month period of time across the country each time. That's it. What does that tell you in terms of the magnitude that stress can have on your organs? And how they're supposed to work. It's like, that was actually working very well in the moment.
Yeah.
You know? So why should we be upset that my body's doing what it's supposed to do under those conditions?
Right.
It was totally healthy for me to be diabetic at that time. Because of the stress, because of the workload, because of the lack of ability to eat, you can see why my body would then process its own self.
Yeah. Yeah, and I see now that the stress I was putting myself under because I was stressing about the food I was eating.
Yes. Stressing while you were eating. Don't forget the stress of as you're eating it. Yeah. So it's occurring perfectly timed with your consumption, like you're eating and the stress is going out of the roof.
Yeah.
And it's fight or flight stress, like panic mode, not just like when I described my stress, it was just organization. Where are my kids going to go? How are they going to be when I move on? You know, all that stress. This is like, I'm a piece of shit. I'm a failure. Oh my God, I'm getting huge. I mean, we're talking panic attack stress while you're eating.
Yep.
Because carbs are bad. How is that affecting your body?
Yeah, I find that whole thing very interesting, and actually it helps me take some pressure off myself about the whole diabetic thing and realize that it's not what I'm eating, it's it's the stress around what I'm eating.
While you're eating. Perfectly.
Right.
Right. So now you have, how much stress do you have?
0.
How much stress do you have about eating that cheeseburger yesterday that you ate when you were hungry?
0.
So how do you think that impacted your overall ability to absorb the food, absorb whatever nutrition's in that food, to be able to manage it?
None.
Right? Because you're not inflamed to such a degree.
Right. My body was just doing what it is supposed to do.
And it tastes good. So you're actually getting some pleasure. You're more, whereas before the stress would have created this not tasting it. You would have just chewed it and swallowed it. You would have eaten probably 3 times as much the rest of the day.
Oh, and I would have
Because of the stress inflammation in the brain that creates that trigger in that primal area of feasting before famine.
Yeah.
I can't eat this anymore. I'm doing something bad. Feasting before famine, people, that's kind of a big deal.
And I wouldn't have tasted it while I ate it because I would have had so much guilt over eating it that I would have hurried and eaten it so no one would know and I could pretend like I didn't do it.
Yeah, and then you're going to go to some blog that says you're addicted.
Yeah.
It's so good you can't stop. And you're like euphoric. And you're going to go, oh my God, is that what it is? That must be. I can't even go there. That's addictive. They must put so much shit in there that makes it like so palatable that I can't stop. Not taking, I know you're laughing because you hear how crazy that is, considering the deprivation that goes into why you're actually binging.
Yep.
But it's really not even the pleasure of the food. You don't taste the pleasure. What you're really getting pleasure off of is the momentary freedom to eat it. That's euphoric.
Yeah.
Like, without the shame and they go, I get to eat it for this moment, but it's only a moment because I can't eat this way in order for me to be healthy and to lose weight, to be accepted.
Yep.
I want to, so confusing when you're inside that, isn't it? So confusing.
Oh my gosh.
It's hard to get out.
It's horrible.
I know. I've been there. It really does suck. The fact that you got out of that is a miracle.
It is.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that I got out of it, too, is a miracle, considering that I didn't have any guidance. And the ability for me to help is, to me, a miracle.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell did I get into your head and help you out and got you to do it? Because you have to, that's not easy. It feels like you're going to die.
Yeah.
And you did it.
Yeah, I felt like I was going to die. I felt like I couldn't do it.
It's hard.
And then once I did it, I was just like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
It was that simple, huh?
Well, it's kind of like jumping off a cliff that you know you're going to die. There's a cliff. It's like, oh my God, like that has clouds covering underneath it. So you can't see the depth, but you believe that it's a cliff you're going to pummel to your death. And then you're like, I got to just do it because dying of falling down a cliff is easier than dying from, suffocation over here.
Yep.
So either I suffocate to death or I take the risk of jumping off of this cliff. So you jumped off the cliff and what did you find out? There's nothing there. Like you just jumped onto another, like there's earth right there. You just jumped and was like, oh, there's nothing. Yeah. It's not a cliff.
It was like a 3-inch jump.
Yeah. That's what I meant. Like, oh my God, I would have suffocated to death over there. That's how it feels. Like, what? Yeah. That was a friggin' illusion. And my whole body believed it. Heart. And you jump just out of the will of something to change because you're so desperate. That will to jump is all it takes.
Yep.
Knowing you're going somewhere that you will never return. You can't return to this if you jump.
Yeah, and it's so nice to know that I can't return.
Right.
I won't return.
I know. I'm so happy. I'm happy for you. And the other thing is it hasn't been easy because your husband is fearful you're going to get diabetes now that you're allowing yourself openly to eat burgers, even though he didn't know before. You would get up in the middle of the night and binge, and you were hiding it from him. He had no idea you were hiding. Right?
Yeah. No idea.
He's struggling with this. You have practitioners like your massage therapist and your energy healer is just like, oh my God, that's bad food. You know, you have, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere around you. And you kind of just have to let people live that way and not be anti it, right? Because you can understand why people are in there. Like, I understand it. I was there too. Obsessive compulsiveness. And then we play the role of like, I'm so amazing at this. Like, there's ego and pride in it, which makes it even worse, right? We could say, if you look back, when you took pride in it, that's when really things got worse.
Yep.
That pride has a lot of shame attached to it that you end up feeling. That's karma. So, yeah, most of the people who come to me at some point took a lot of pride in their health righteousness.
I did. And I didn't think I did.
Until you got out.
Yeah, I told you I didn't.
Yeah.
But I did.
I know. Anyways. Yeah. What? Anything you want to say before I stop recording?
Yeah. When the first time I worked with you, I bought like 2 sessions. And then this time I knew I had to go all in. So I bought the 10 sessions, which may seem like a lot of money up front, but when I look at all this diet crap that I have around my house, I spent far more than that over the years.
Yeah.
For nothing. Only to feel worse about myself than I did before.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And you don't think twice about what you're spending either.
No.
I know. So all of a sudden someone comes to my recovery page, right? And they're like, oh my God.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, it's completely worth every second I've spent doing this because I have my life back. Yeah.
So if we were forthright, you've actually done, you bought a second package of 10. So it'll be 20 sessions total.
Yeah.
And your real true recovery occurred probably the second session of our second package. Yeah. And it's like, boom, right? You kind of waffle in and out, but you now have the temperament or the ability to, because your brain is functioning better without the inflammation. Can you tell?
Right.
To go, hold on a second now. I'm not doing that. I'd rather be fine. And it's quick and easy. Your husband's afraid you're going to get diabetes. And you take a moment and you go, well, what about diabetes? Oh, you know what? I'd rather be diabetic. Right?
Yeah.
Takes a moment. You're like, oh, yeah, no, I'll never go back to that. No, I would rather lose my legs because of diabetes. Yeah. No, because that is easier compared to complete psychological paralysis.
Oh my gosh, no comparison.
I know. Psychological paralysis is terrible. Being an indentured servant to some radical diet concept, that's like being brainwashed and your whole life is dedicated to it. So would you rather have the freedom that includes the physical reality that you're going to die eventually? Right?
Yep.
And the freedom to live, freedom to be a real human being, the freedom to have creativity again, to have fun again, to connect again to people, to be able to enjoy life on so many levels at this point, right? There's no limits. You have absolutely no limitation here, do you?
Yep.
And you are fatter. So we could do a before and after picture. The before when you were psychologically had paralysis with your grain-free, gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free. You can show that before picture, which is thinner. But you could list paranoia, obsessive compulsiveness, depression, suicidal thoughts, social anxiety, panic attacks, major issues, thyroid problems probably. I mean, if we did a blood panel at that point, you probably were diabetic in your thinner body, right? Yep. Or you could take a picture of your after body that is now has the consequences of the binge eating that you did, but now the freedom. And you could say more relaxed, easygoing, more carefree, freedom of thinking, no anxiety, no panic attacks, connecting to people, feeling grace for yourself, self-worth, self-esteem, confidence, and you didn't take a pill.
Right. And I have found that I will catch myself just smiling like a great big goof for no reason. Yeah, just high on life.
Yeah, that is the reality. That's what I felt after I recovered. After that moment where I realized I'm done. I'd rather be huge, and I love the soul that I am, and that's who I am. I felt like I was levitating for years. 2 straight years. I could feel the energy of the trees. It was the most amazing period of time in my life, and I can still get there if I focus.
Yeah.
Well, focus meaning turn off the chaos, right? I have kids now, and I'm a dog, and I have this work, and I have a book that I'm working on, all that stuff, but it's still there underneath it at all, right? Yeah. I will never go back to feeling bad about myself again. Yep. Even with the reality of mistakes and loss and, and the truth of what real life is about, right? Real life is about moving, right? That's real life. Real life is about changing careers. It's about your kids having problems. It's about my mom dying of cancer. It's about, and she ate all organic. I mean, my God, that woman was super healthy on so many levels. And she died of cancer, right? Going through that and, having my dad get a new girlfriend right away, That's life, and I love it, and you know what? I love it, right? And now I'm participating, and I don't have to do anything except for live in the luxury we actually have. What I have to do to manage this, even though we need my income, we need my husband's income, we have all these bills. I had this experience when my mom passed away. Did I tell you about this? I had an ovarian cyst rupture. I didn't even know I had ovarian cyst. I ended up being hospitalized because my body went into shock because I didn't have pain from it, but when I guess it burst, it was a blood cyst that went into my cavity. My whole body went into shock. Anyways, I had to stay at an emergency. I went to the emergency room, had to get CAT scans. I mean, I got all these bills, right? But you know what? I'm so grateful because 100 years ago, I would have died.
Yeah.
So bring on the thousands of dollars of bills. Like, I'll just pay a little bit at a time.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm no different than anybody else listening this here. Built businesses, lost businesses, filed bankruptcy, wrote a book, can't write another book, mom dies of cancer, moving. I moved 5 times in 5 years.
Yep.
Now I'm engaged, right? Where before I wasn't engaged because I was trying to isolate and control so much and obsessing about how to control so much and feeling so shitty about who I was because I wasn't going to church. That I was marrying a non-member of the church because I drank alcohol and you're not supposed to drink alcohol, and I'm engaging in real life and I feel bad about engaging in real life. All of that is just like, what a waste of a perfect life. Why can't we just live and allow ourselves the grace to be human?
Exactly.
And to allow other humans to have grace too, so that we don't have to manage them either.
Yeah.
My God, right? Isn't that awesome too, that you don't necessarily have to tell people and proselytize this, do you?
Exactly.
It's just kind of your quiet, humble recovery.
Yep. Yeah, it really is freedom.
I know. Congratulations, dearie, you did it.
Thank you.
I know.
And thanks for your guidance.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm happy to do it.
No, but I love how you, didn't say, yeah, Michelle, you really do need to just lose weight. Even though I really wanted you to say that.
Well, you know that would be so shallow.
Yeah. Yep.
That would have been so easy. That's easy.
Yeah, it would have been.
Yeah, now you see that. Even though
I wanted the easy way
The easy way out is actually the most destructive and painful and full of the most suffering and heartache and exhaustion and work. What I had you do was the difficult route, but so fucking easy when it's over. And it's like, this is so easy.
Yeah.
Because you're not living in some mirage anymore. You're not chasing a mirage. You're just saying where you're at and making where you're at work.
And smiling like a big old goose.
I know. All right. Thanks for letting me share this.